In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Today, we're diving into the epic universe of Warhammer 40k, a wild mix of science fiction, dark fantasy, and just a sprinkle of madness. For many of us, it's one of the most captivating worlds out there. So what exactly is Warhammer 40k? Well, I'm here to break it down for you without going into too much detail. There's a ton to cover. Warhammer 40k is a franchise that blends sci-fi and dark fantasy, and it's aimed at an adult audience. You might hear folks call it grimdark, and that's because it really embraces the darker themes. This whole thing kicked off in 1987 thanks to Games Workshop. It started as an offshoot of Warhammer Fantasy, which was all about classic fantasy tropes. Think dwarves, orcs, elves, and demons all locked in eternal conflict. Then they decided to launch it into space, and voila, Warhammer 40k was born. It began as a tabletop game with miniatures that you had to buy, assemble, and paint. But don't freak out. You don't need to have miniatures to enjoy this universe. With its deep lore and rich history, it's easy to get hooked. The 40,000 in the title means the story takes place 40,000 years in the future, which was a clever choice. It allows for a diverse and original setting. Now, unlike other stories where humanity fights valiantly in a challenging future, in Warhammer 40k, there's only war. Hope has vanished, and what's left is a slow march toward extinction. Humanity has fallen into a religious fervor around the Emperor, a decaying corpse who's been sitting on his golden throne for 10,000 years. Even though humanity controls thousands of worlds, they're constantly under attack from alien threats and beings known as the Chaos Gods, adding a terrifying twist to the tale. And here's the kicker. While the Imperium of Man might seem like the good guys, they're not exactly heroes. Warhammer 40k isn't about clear-cut good versus evil. It's all about moral gray areas. What would you do to survive? The Imperium is a tyrannical regime that treats its people as tools. The Tyranids are out there destroying everything in sight. And the orcs? Well, they add a bit of comedy to the chaos. The Xenos have their own stories and motivations too, and they're not always villains. Even the Chaos faction has some fascinating characters, with many people seeing them as the real heroes. In this universe, both humanity and the Xenos are incredibly powerful. Worlds are destroyed, and millions of lives are lost every day. It's just part of life here. So, how do you dive into the world of Warhammer 40k? There are comics, video games, and, of course, books. Over 450 of them. But don't worry, you don't have to read them all to get it. Not at all. They're mostly independent stories, and there's so much material for horror, action, romance, and everything in between. To start, I recommend picking a faction that interests you and checking out their story in a podcast. I'm just starting to upload videos, and there are plenty of YouTube channels covering each faction. This will help you get familiar with the universe and figure out what Warhammer 40k is really about. You don't have to kick things off with the Imperium. The Chaos faction is equally fascinating, and soon you'll be digging for more info on them. If I had to suggest a book series to get started with, I'd say check out the Eisenhorn trilogy. It's a fantastic way to learn about the Imperium, the Xenos, and the various threats out there. And that's your quick intro to Warhammer 40k. I hope this has sparked your interest and made you want to learn more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care.